1978, China was one of the poorest countries on the planet. Its economy was smaller than Argentina's. It was poorer than Malawi, Chad, and Bangladesh. The average Chinese citizen earned just $155 a year. Meanwhile, in the United States, over $10,000. Entire villages in China had no electricity, no roads, and no future. But one man would change everything. Not with slogans, not with ideology, but with strategy. His name was Deng Xiaoping. The 1970s marked the end of the Mao era. Decades of revolution had left the country in ruins. The Great Leap Forward led to mass famine. The Cultural Revolution dismantled education, destroyed tradition, and instilled fear. Factories were idle. Farms were failing. Millions had died. But Deng Xiaoping was a survivor, purged, imprisoned, but never broken. When he returned to power in 1978, he didn't seek revenge. He sought rebirth. He knew China had to open its doors or remain in poverty forever. So he launched a revolution, an economic one. It began with 4 words: reform and opening up. In 1980, Deng created the first special economic zones, or SEZs. The most famous? Shenzhen. Back then, it was a tiny fishing town of 30,000. Today, over 17.5 million people live there. These zones allowed for something radical: private capital, foreign investment, market incentives, tax breaks, land flexibility, business autonomy. Western firms brought money, technology, and management skills. And the factories came. By the 1990s, China was no longer isolated. It was on its way to becoming the workshop of the world. But industrial reform wasn't enough. Most of China, 80%, still lived in the countryside. Farming was done collectively, with little output and no personal incentive. So Deng launched the household responsibility system. Farmers were allowed to lease land from the state. After meeting quotas, they could sell surplus and keep the profits. The results were immediate. Within 5 years, rural incomes doubled. Agricultural productivity skyrocketed. And something else happened. With food secured and money flowing, China's surplus rural labor migrated to cities, fueling its factory boom. This created the largest rural-to-urban migration in human history. Next came the enterprises. State-owned firms were bloated, inefficient, and politically controlled. So Deng changed the rules. He allowed them to operate independently, to retain profits, to compete. He even legalized private businesses, once considered capitalist evil. His philosophy was simple: black cat or white cat. If it catches mice, it's a good cat. By 2001, China entered the World Trade Organization, WTO. It had arrived on the global stage. Foreign direct investment soared from near zero to over $160 billion a year. And China's role was clear. It was the factory of the world. Between 1978 and 2018, China's growth was nothing short of miraculous. GDP per capita jumped from $155 to $9,700. Total GDP rose from $149 billion to $17.7 trillion. Over 800 million people were lifted out of extreme poverty. Life expectancy climbed from 66.5 to 77.3 years. Literacy rates soared. Infrastructure boomed. Railways, highways, skyscrapers, entire cities. This was the fastest sustained economic expansion in human history, and it wasn't driven by luck. It was built on policy, reform, pragmatism, and relentless execution. Deng Xiaoping's approach was cautious but determined. He moved fast, but with care. He once said, "Cross the river by feeling the stones." He tested reforms in small areas before scaling them. When they worked, he expanded them nationwide. His leadership avoided chaos while embracing bold change. He never sought cult-like power. He never gave fiery speeches. He rarely even appeared in public. But his fingerprints are everywhere. From the bullet trains, to the factories, to the towering skylines. Today, China is a $17 trillion superpower, the second largest economy on Earth, a technological giant, a manufacturing titan, and its rise all traces back to a man who didn't believe in slogans, but believed in results. Deng Xiaoping rebuilt a broken nation, quietly, relentlessly, strategically, and in doing so, he reshaped the world.